Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the video. Today we're going to talk all about email marketing. So if your emails are a mess, or maybe you're not even doing email marketing for your clinic and you're looking to reach significant milestones in your business, this video is for you. We're going to outline our best practices for current modern day email marketing. We're also going to talk about one of my personal favorite email marketing strategies called the pre-education sequence, which is ultimately a way that we warm up patients before they come in for their initial appointment. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Jeff Van Kampen. I own Clinic Growth Accelerator. All we talk about on this channel is how to help clinics hit $200,000 per month in collections inside of their business. Now, we don't make any income claims. Just because you watch a few of these videos doesn't mean you're gonna turn around and make $200,000 a month overnight. That's just not gonna happen. But if you take some of these best practices, I think that you're gonna have a higher probability of reaching not only a higher revenue level, but maybe even someday getting to that $200,000 per month level that all of us aspire to get to on this channel. So first and foremost, why is email marketing important, okay? So there's a really good concept that I always think about, and I can't take credit for it. It is from the book called The Ultimate Sales Machine, written by Chet Holmes. And in that book, he talks about the concept of stadium selling, okay? And stadium selling effectively means that if you imagine an entire stadium filled with your most ideal prospects, your ideal patients, they are all within that stadium, okay? But some of them are in home plate, like a baseball diamond, and they're at home plate and they're ready to buy. Okay, that's like 3% of your market. Okay, your ideal patients, 3% of them are ready to buy right now. 7% of them are ready to buy something soon. Okay, so if you take that 3% and that 7%, that means you've got about 10% of people that are pretty much ready to take action at any given period of time. Okay. Then there's another 30% of people that are within the stadium, but they're more out in the field, okay? They're not right by home plate, but they need to be warmed up to be brought closer to your business to ultimately convert and take action. And that's where email marketing is going to come in, because many clinics are guilty of not working their leads for a long enough period of time, okay? So what happens, and this is the main problem with lead generation, is that the clinic gets a bunch of leads, but then what happens from there is that the leads that respond right away and show up and buy, they're great. But the ones that don't, the ones that maybe don't respond to the initial communication, or the ones that don't return the phone calls right away, a lot of times those leads are quite literally just forgotten about. They're pushed away to the side, they're shoved away over in a CRM, and then literally the business never ever reaches out again. And so what we're gonna talk about in this video is an email marketing strategy and why I believe email marketing is so important to do for a business, because it ultimately helps you create what's called an incubator, okay? An incubator is where you hold somebody. Think of like your leads that haven't converted. It's a holding tank for all of those leads that you can just provide consistent value to over time, like rapid fire value, so that ultimately you can take their current level of warmth to the business, take them from cold, and slowly warm them up in the emails so that by the time they're feeling ready to go, they ultimately take action to do business with you and only you, okay? So in this video, we're gonna talk about the best practices for email marketing. So the first best practice answers the number one question. How frequently should I email my list? Well, there's a couple different answers to this, okay? But first and foremost, let me just flat out say that I absolutely despise and hate monthly newsletters. In fact, I think monthly newsletters are one of the biggest jokes when it comes to email marketing for a lot of different reasons. Here's a couple problems with the monthly newsletter. Number one, it's monthly. You're only sending out content once a month and you expect to warm people up at a high enough rate to have an impact on your business. That's just absolutely ludicrous and that's just not gonna happen. So number one problem, it's monthly, okay? We don't like doing anything monthly. We wanna do something frequently enough to have an impact on the organization's bottom line. The second thing, a monthly newsletter is positioned as a newsletter. That ultimately means that what most providers do is they sit down to write their email and they start talking about all the changes that are happening in their business. We got a new space, we're hiring a new associate, we just got a new shockwave machine, a softwave machine, we just got decompression. Here's the reality, nobody cares. Nobody cares about that because they are talking to your business and they became a lead for selfish reasons. They do not care about the updates you're making to your facility. They don't care what color your walls are. They want you to help them get an outcome in their life. So monthly newsletters literally need to be thrown away in the trash as quickly as possible if you want to have an effective email outcome here in 2025. So how often should I email my list? Well, a couple things. Number one, when a lead first opts in, you should have a minimum of a 10 to 14 day nurture sequence to try to convert that lead to an appointment. Yes, you should be doing all the manual touches, and maybe you should even be including some automated response and automated follow-up leveraging AI, but that's kind of a digression for today. So frequency, 10 to 14 emails right when they first sign up for your business to try to ultimately get them to take action to come in as a new patient appointment. Now, after that, you need to have a long-term email strategy with a high enough frequency to see a result. So we like to take all of our clients' leads, and we like to create what's called a daily Seinfeld sequence. And what this means is that we ultimately will email the leads, not necessarily daily, that's kind of the illusion, but we'll email the leads 3 to 5 times a week with just general value add information. These are the leads that have not converted. These are your past patients. These are the people that showed up for day 1 but missed day 2. These are like anybody that's remotely part of your business that you are emailing value add actions inside of their content every single week, okay? So that is called a daily Seinfeld sequence, and it's something that needs to be executed on frequently, and you need to do it more than once a month, okay? Hence the 3 to 5 times a week. Now, in our own business, we have tested email over and over, and I'm gonna talk a little bit later in this video about the statistics that we should look for, but here's what you might find interesting. Email marketing has been the cheapest and most consistent source of appointments in our business since we started last year of January 2024. Because what we found is that we're getting a lot of leads from our paid ads, our Facebook and Instagram ads, but a lot of the leads just didn't take action. They didn't book calls, or maybe they didn't show up to the call, and ultimately they didn't buy the program. So what we continued to do was nurture the leads over email. Just this year alone, we have produced an additional 50 appointments from our email marketing on a pretty moderate investment in terms of what we actually spend to do our email marketing. So again, you need to consider email as an incubator, okay? And by having a good frequency, you will ultimately be able to convert more leads across time. So frequency matters for a couple of different reasons. Number one, the more you email somebody, the more likely they are to build the trust bias with you. If you think about like your favorite celebrity, okay, everyone's got one. Doesn't matter if they're in business or out of business, your favorite celebrity. If you consume enough of their content, eventually you feel like you know them. You genuinely feel like you know that person. They don't have a clue what your name is, but you feel like, intuitively, you feel like you know them, okay? Now what's interesting about that is that's called the trust bias. So you can do the same thing for your clinic. As patients read your name more and read your content more, they're slowly getting warmed up to you as a provider and your practice. And that ultimately, again, is going to allow them to take action with a higher probability when they ultimately want to take action to fix their problem or ultimately correct their spine, okay? So that's why, number one, you need to email a lot, because you're going to increase the trust bias. The second thing is you have competitors. So a lot of leads, when they sign up to come into your practice, they're going to give you what they consider their junk email. And guess what? They've given hundreds of other people their junk email as well. And so if you email your monthly newsletter once a month, quite literally within the next 12 hours, your email is going to be fucking buried. Like, you're going to be buried below everybody else, and you're not going to be sending another email for another month, and then you're scratching your head wondering why you're not getting results. Well, it's like, dude, you didn't build the trust bias and your stuff got buried. So frequency matters for not only the trust bias, but keeping at the top of somebody's inbox is equally as important. Because when people do check their spam email, are they going to go back hundreds of pages or hundreds of emails? Maybe, but the probability is not in our favor that they're going to do that. So we want to try to remain in the top 20 to 30 emails at any given period of time so that we have the highest probability of getting them to open and consume our content. So what should the emails contain? Well, the emails should contain value-dense information that's relevant to the patient's current state of awareness. Patients right now, as they consume your information, they have a very low state of awareness in terms of how your service can help them and ultimately the technology behind your service, okay? They have not a clue. At the end of the day, they don't really care. So the best thing for you to do is become aware of the conversations that you are having in your office with your patients. Those are gonna then become the best emails that you can send because you're answering questions and creating content that's directly relevant to what the patients are asking you in the business. And one of our favorite things to do is include what's called video assets. So if you're creating content on YouTube or answering questions from your current patients and you're sending them videos, it's awesome to include those additional links inside of your emails. Because here's the reality, some people will consume the email and get all the necessary value. Other people, they don't learn by reading. They learn by watching videos and listening. They're auditory learners or visual learners, right? So by including videos when you can inside of the emails, you're not only gonna increase your consumption rate, but you're also gonna shorten the cycle that it takes for you to ultimately build trust with the individual. Now, a lot of people struggle with coming up with content, okay? They're like, what do I actually talk about? What is my brand like? How do I keep these emails have like a consistent message behind them? And I like to think about things in a pillar strategy. So when we came up with our email marketing strategy initially, we were like, okay, we're gonna talk about 3 pillars for our clinics. We're gonna talk about trust, expertise, and care. Those are the main 3 things that we want everybody to build as they read our emails. So every email must contain elements of trust, expertise, and care. They don't need to contain all 3, but they need to contain at least one out of the 3 elements in terms of building the patient closer to our business. Now, here are some examples on how you could do that. Well, trust, you want to talk about outcome of results, patients that have come in with chronic conditions that have achieved ridiculous results with working with you, and ultimately the number of people that you have serviced over the course of your time. Those are just 3 easy examples. Now, before we get into the statistics that we should look for inside of our email marketing campaigns, I want to talk to you about something we call the pre-education sequence. So the pre-education sequence is a separate email marketing sequence from the Daily Seinfeld. So let me just make this absolutely clear. When somebody opts in, okay, we're gonna go from left to right. When somebody opts into your emails, to your clinic from an ad or something that they downloaded, they have a 10 to 14 day drip to get them to try to take action immediately. If they don't take action on that, then they're gonna go into the Daily Seinfeld. The Daily Seinfeld is where we're emailing people 3 to 5 times per week, every week in perpetuity to warm up the audience and squeeze more juice from the fruit, okay? Now, when somebody actually takes action, let's say they opted in and then they booked an appointment and then your team called to confirm that appointment over the phone, qualified that person, and then once that person was qualified, now they're gonna get appointment reminders, okay? Now, appointment reminders are only a part of this pre-education sequence. In fact, they're the least important part of the sequence. It's just reminding somebody of their appointment. Okay, the most important part is the educational component. So what we like to do is when somebody has a confirmed appointment, we will actually help our clients create another 14 sequence email chain, okay? And what that will allow us to do, it'll allow us to frame the patient before they come into the business so that ultimately we have to work less hard to get the conversion and we can shorten the sales cycle because we've already given them a ton of information, okay? So again, before they come into the business, that is when they get the pre-education sequence. They have a confirmed appointment and we are gonna smack them with the pre-education sequence. The pre-education sequence is gonna do the following. It's gonna answer their main questions, okay? What are the most common questions that patients ask you? We need to answer those in the email right away so that we can get rid of the people who it doesn't make sense for and magnetize the people who are gonna be a good fit for the business. That's first and foremost, so questions. Second is the second layer questions. So once we answered their initial questions, what follow-up questions do they have as a second layer that we need to answer to ultimately, again, build the trust and shorten the sales cycle, okay? We're also gonna be overcoming objections in this email sequence, and we're also gonna be setting expectations. So just to recap, what are their current questions? Once these questions are answered, what are their second layer questions? What are their current objections? Or maybe they have failed past attempts with other chiropractors. How are they currently objecting and how can we overcome those? And then what are the expectations not only for day one, but ultimately if they do become a patient inside of the office. That is the pre-education sequence, and we will hammer them with that sequence. And so ultimately, the way it works from like a technology standpoint, and we're not going to get into all the setup today, but when somebody becomes a confirmed appointment, let's say that appointment is confirmed today. I'm recording this video on a Wednesday, and their appointment is for tomorrow. We will hit them with all 14 emails, or however many emails we're running, 14 for example, we will hammer them between today, Wednesday, and their next appointment on tomorrow on Thursday. So we will hammer them all within 24 hours, okay? Now, if somebody's appointment is further out, like again, today's Wednesday, let's say their appointment is next Monday, we will drip the emails on them between today, Wednesday, and Monday. But just because an appointment is only one day out or even like 12 hours out, doesn't mean we're not gonna send them all 14 emails, right? We need to get all these emails out to them so that we can get them to start consuming the information so that ultimately they show up as pre-framed as possible to have the highest output of conversion. Now the next question is, what statistics do we look for, okay? So in a general email campaign, we like to see open rates about 40 to 50%, okay? That's pretty standard, 40 to 50% of people open the email that you send. From there, we like to see 5 to 8% action rate. So that means that if you get 40% of people to open the email, then we want 5 to 8% of those people to take the necessary action. Most of the actions, especially in the daily Seinfeld, are gonna be a call to action to book an appointment. Now, not every email should include a direct call to action to book. Sometimes it'll be a value add call to action to watch this video or check out this podcast that we just did. But for the most part, the main call to action is a schedule. You want them to schedule an appointment with the business. You don't want them to re-opt in to a lead magnet. You don't want them to have to sign up for something. It's really best practice to try to get them to actually take the next logical step, which is to ultimately book an appointment with the business. Now there's a caveat. If you're doing a monthly webinar or a webinar once a quarter, it is appropriate to use your email list to invite people to the webinar because that is also a method of incubation and warming people up. But for the most part, on a day-to-day basis, the main call to action that you should consider using in your email is a direct booking link to schedule a day one consultation with your clinic. So let's talk about list segmentation. So should you take your active patients, your past patients, and your leads and segment them into different lists? Well, you certainly can do that. And I think it's good to have a list for only your active patients and your previous patients. But should you spend a lot of time at this stage segmenting your list? My answer would be no. I think you should just start doing the work and get these sequences put together that we've outlined in this video before you worry about audience segmentation. Because that's a great way to add a lot of complexity to this particular situation without having a lot of upside. Now, I can only share so much in this video here on YouTube, and so if you want to learn a little bit more about how we help our clients execute on these exact systems, there's a couple links below and a handful of different programs that we can help you with. The most notable one is called our Accelerator Program. The Accelerator Program is our flagship program. It's a done-for-you advertising and marketing program where we actually come into your business and we'll not only help you set up ads and everything that we discuss on this channel, but we'll also meet with you and your team every single week to do financial model reviews and statistical reviews. It's a very hands-on advertising program. We've got about 100 or so active clients that we have inside of that program right now. There is a minimum revenue that you must currently be hitting inside of your business to even be accepted into that program. Right now, our minimum revenue is about roughly $50,000 a month for that program, give or take. If you have a very high profitable business and a lower revenue number, we may consider accepting you. But if you're at that revenue and you want to take it to the next level, consider an application for the Accelerator Program. Now, if you're below that revenue number and you're wanting to take your business to the next level, we do have another option called the Master Clinical Marketing Program. That is a program where we don't work quite as hands-on with you, but we give you access to all of our best trainings so that you and your team can take those trainings, implement it in your own clinic, and then once you hit the next revenue milestone, if you want to consider joining the Accelerator Program, then you can fill out an application as you reach that next level. If you got value from this video, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button and like the video. We are going to be putting out a lot of content here on YouTube starting right now. We're putting out as much as 2 videos per week on the channel that's going to be completely dedicated to helping you reach record months inside your clinic. So I hope to see you guys next time. With anything, drop a comment below if you have a topic that you want us to talk about or any questions on the video, and we're happy to respond. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.